You're listening to the Confident Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Gavin, former professional photographer turned professional encourager. I'm an intuitive life and business mentor focused on strengthening courage and confidence for heart-centered creatives. These heart-centered creatives desire to make an impact and an income through sharing their heart with the world. This podcast is dedicated to helping us creatives activate more courage within ourselves so we can experience more memories, achieve more milestones, and make more money. In addition to empowering stories, this show will also include practical, actionable strategies from thought leaders, influencers, impact makers, and my own personal experience. If you are passionate about the areas of intentionally living, prioritizing passion, choosing courage, as well as some soulful business strategy, spirituality, and some self-mastery, you, my friend, are in the right place. You ready to play? One of the things that I think is so interesting as someone that is a recovering perfectionist and constantly trying to remember I'm growing and expanding past my people pleasing, one of the biggest ways that I have overcome some of those challenges and continue to work through them is through the life that I've chosen. I actually chose entrepreneurship without even knowing the amount of growth and personal development and personal responsibility and all the things that it was going to require of me. But I think it's so fascinating that we can look back and realize, wow, this was really part of my plan all along. It was really part of my path and all of those things. But what's also interesting is realizing the freedom that comes with that, right? Because if I'm really interested in helping people create a life that they are self-authorizing and really designing it around their desires and their life, well, of course I have to do that first, right? Like, of course I have to be the one that goes through all of the illusions of perfectionism and really letting go of the need to people please. And so I was thinking this morning as I was driving that entrepreneurship really is about the ability to give yourself permission to make mistakes and really give yourself permission to test and tweak things and do it through the lens of helping others, but by going first. And so I had this moment of clarity around I'm doing this first so I can come back and report and share and help other people reduce the amount of suffering. But the other piece that's really important to me is to recognize the very thing I chose, the very life that I chose. I can look back and see, well, of course that it was about, going through and going through the ups and downs. But more than anything, it was about regulating my personal experience along the journey rather than letting my emotions take over and take me out of the game. So just something I was thinking about this morning of how, perfectionism is not for the entrepreneurial spirit and people pleasing is not for the entrepreneurial spirit. And so I just wanted to remind you that this is all just an experiment. This is all just a game. This is all something that we get to play with, but we don't have to make it mean anything. And that's really where I see the greatest suffering is when we attach all kinds of meaning to this was a success, so I am a success, or this did not work, so I am a failure. And so I'd really just invite you to consider, what is it that you're attaching meaning to? What is it that you're really creating an identity around? And how can you lighten that up a little bit? What is it for you that actually might be a little more playful? Because the thing is, you're not an entrepreneur because it was easy. You're an entrepreneur because you have something to share with the world. So I just want to remind you, you're on your way and it's happening, but you don't have to beat yourself up over it. You can choose grace and love and self-appreciation and remind yourself that you're going first so you can report back and help others. But it's always about going into it with an attitude of, this is going to be an experiment and it doesn't mean anything about me as a human. That's what's on my heart today. Wanted to share it with you. Hope you're having a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the Confident Creative podcast. I am so psyched that I got to have this conversation, and I loved sharing it with you. If you enjoyed it, I would love for you to hit subscribe to the podcast, and it would mean the absolute world to me if you could go ahead and leave a review about what your biggest takeaway was. If you want to come over and continue the conversation, join us in my free Facebook community, the Confident Creative Collective. We'll be diving into all different conversations from the podcast, as well as some additional trainings and some inside scoop. If you want to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram at Keri.Gavin, Keri.Gavin, or you can find me on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you, and thank you for sharing this with anyone you think it resonates with. See you on the next episode.